Hi, everyone. I'm Devora Mason, as she introduced. I'm not used to speaking to a crowd of Olim, so I was trying to get a sense of what it is that makes you guys excited, but I think a lot of things makes everyone excited, so this is going to be much easier than pitching to Israeli VCs. I'm just joking. Okay. My name is Devora Mason, and I'm the COO and CFO of Voiceitt. Voiceitt is a unique startup that develops speech recognition technology for people with speech disabilities, allowing them to speak and be understood in real time using their own voice. She forgot to mention a very important point, which is, I guess, something I'm very proud of, besides, of course, my salsa dancing and the fact that I'm running the Jerusalem Marathon for the 7th time, is that I'm a single mom of 5 kids. So that's like my startup. My own mini startup is my family. So I was thinking about the important parts of what makes me who I am today, and I think that one of the most important ones is the one on the right bottom here, klutz extraordinaire. Okay, because you have to know your weaknesses just like you know your strengths. And when I leave the house every single morning, I pour coffee on my shirt. So I have a huge collection of Tide pens that I carry with me to make sure that nobody knows. But I'm telling you guys, all right? And the other day I was in the Knesset for a big event where we were discussing social tech, and we were discussing the idea of funding for companies that are developing socially useful technology that would help people and improve and make the world a better place. And as I was leaving, I practically knocked the entire wall of pictures off. So luckily, actually, you should just know they're not just nailed on, they're actually seriously pinned into the wall so they can't fall off. But I'm just telling you that. Anyways, so actually I've made Aliyah twice, which makes me like way more Zionistic than most of you guys, okay? The first time I made Aliyah without Nefesh B'Nefesh, so I know what it's like. I show up in 1990 with the Russian Aliyah. I get to Misrad HaKlita, and they're like, "Where are you from?" I say, "Canada." They say, "What are you doing here? Go home." All right, that's okay. I said, "No, we really are here on purpose. We want to be here. We didn't make a mistake. We really do want to come." And then the Gulf War breaks out. So, yeah, making Aliyah, in the earlier years, there was no American social group like we have here, and the French who can all, be camaraderie, together. And no, it was not like that. I went to school, the principal would grab my head, slam it onto the desk, and say, "Good morning, Boker Tov Devora." That was how it was. There was it wasn't the same as it is today, where, my mother would have to show up at school and tell the teacher, "Oh, there were 42 kids in the class." I don't even think she knew who I was. But I stayed on, and, things slowly got better. There were a bunch of us whose parents were, and, he used the word, he said, "We're not crazy." I'll tell you what the word is that we use. It's a combination of 2 words called brave and crazy. It's called brazy. We're all brazy, okay? And when we stayed on, and I continued on in high school, and things got better, and there was a bunch of us whose parents had made Aliyah, and so we were all here together, and we understood what it was. And I went to an amazing high school where I got a valuable education that I probably could never have gotten anywhere else. It's a school called Pelech, and in those years, they were giving a completely open, feministic, and empowering education to anyone who was accepted to the school. And I also did my national service afterwards in the Yad Vashem Museum, where everything was it was all, just catalogs and so on, and we computerized the picture and film archives, which was an amazing thing. I also knew that I didn't want to work with children. Little did I know I would have 5 afterwards, but okay. And then I left, and I went back to Toronto, because once I was free again to do as I pleased, I really did not want to stay. It was very, very hard in those years to stay. And there's not a person I meet who I don't walk by, who was in Israel during the 90s, who hasn't lost someone close to them because of the terrorist attacks, or who hasn't gone through very difficult times. And, all of us here today, we're all so enthusiastic. We're so excited. But when you've been here for a long time, you always wonder, why are people negative about being here? And it's because we chose to be here. Empowerment. When you make a choice, it's something amazing. But there's also something empowering about choosing to stay. Now, I'll just tell you a little bit about my startup. What happened was, when I came back to Israel, my 5th was born here. He's a Sabra. And When I first got divorced, I realized that I had to go out and stop working in the world of nonprofit, which is an amazing world, but it's very hard to support a family in that world. And I knew that I wanted to do something more, and I had a lot of ambition. So someone I knew said to me, join. And I'm going to tell you, you know what, let me tell you the story after I show you a little bit about our company, because I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what to do when you're looking for work for the first time, especially as an Oleh. So let me just show you briefly.
I want to be a firefighter when I grow up. My mom says it's too dangerous, but I think it's only dangerous if there is a fire. I was born 12 weeks before my expected birth date. Is 1.9 pounds heavy or light? I want to speak, but the words remain inside me. People just don't understand me. My name is Ray. I'm 5 years old. And tomorrow, I will start speaking freely.
I love you.
That's the technology, that's the app called Talkitt that allows people with speech disabilities a chance to speak and be understood. Talking is a basic need, and for millions of people around the world with speech disabilities, speaking and being understood is not possible for them. Oftentimes, the people closest to them understand what they have to say, but when they go out into the world, whether their disability is cognitive or it's purely a motor disability, they have a hard time being understood, and it's very frustrating for them. When I knew that I wanted to do something that made a difference, and I love the high-tech world. And I had just come out of a women's leadership program with amazing women who had really empowered me and given me a sense of, of strength and of commitment to what it is that I wanted to do. And that's when I met Danny, the CEO of Voiceitt. And we decided to work together because we both truly wanted to make a difference. And he was already working on a startup, and I joined. There's the idea of competition, and there's the idea of compassion. And that's why the social tech is such a good fit to the Israeli market. We believe that we can make it happen. We run out there, we try to get the funding. There's funding that's available here from the European Commission, from the chief scientist. We have funding that through competitions and so on and so forth. But at the same time, we have that compassion. People really do want to cater and help out and make a difference in markets that aren't only the mass market, but also a niche market. One of the things that I learned from working for Voiceitt was I had already been working in the nonprofit sector, and I knew already about grant writing. I knew already about getting funds. And one of the things I learned was about corporate funding, about corporate non-dilutive funding sources, how to find ways to fund your company that is not just something that will dilute your equity and make you make you have to take investors in and basically have a commitment to more people than just your closest circle. And obviously we have angel investors who have invested in the company, but we are on a constant pursuit, and we are always, after the non-dilutive funding sources as well, because in a social tech startup, the runway is long. And you have to develop a very deep technology, and you need the time. You can't just launch an MVP because you're dealing with people who have a disability. You cannot take that risk. You need to make sure that your product is as good as it can be before you launch it. Part of being a social tech company, and I'm not going to make you guys read this entire list, but this is just the things I've done in the past 6 months, I think. Okay? So I've been in Japan. I have been in France. I have been in Texas. We've pitched to 43 North. We were the second prize winners of the 43 North competition. I've also, met with people through the Bakol conference, people with hearing disabilities, because oftentimes people who have a hearing impairment, they often have a trouble with speech as well. Now, why is speech so important? The trend going forwards is everything is going to be voice activated, okay? And currently, all of the speech recognition technology is only catering to standard speech. If you have any type of non-standard speech, you're not going to be able to use it. And what we are doing is we're creating the opportunity for people with speech Impairments, also accents, but our focus is on the social aspect of this technology, to be able to speak and be understood by people besides the people who are closest to them. So this is just some pictures of the moments I've had over this past year. It's been a wonderful year, and I always tell people, I just want you to know I'm not always having a good time. For every one picture, I have been probably working for like 2 months without air. So, you know, that's how it works. This is Morris, by the way. He's one of our beta testers from Brooklyn. He's the greatest character ever. You sometimes maybe see him on Ben Yehuda on Fridays. He collects money for Holocaust survivors. And everyone in Jerusalem sort of knows him. And I went out with him one day. I don't have the video here. And I put the Talkitt app on a chest strap for him. And he went around and he basically had a good time, you know, just testing it out all over the Jerusalem streets. So that was a really good time. And he is one of our biggest supporters. He always says, I don't really need it, you know. I don't need it that much. But what about the people who have more severe disabilities than me? So a person, even with a speech disability, he's thinking about other people. That's Israel. So I know we're in Tel Aviv, but I just want to say that one of the things that I found my niche in was also in Jerusalem, okay? Jerusalem has an amazing ecosystem that everyone cares about each other. When I first joined Talkitt, and they've moved back to the Merkaz, but they were sitting in Jerusalem. And, you know, for instance, there's all these different organizations or companies, nonprofits who basically offer services to develop both people professionally, personally, as well as develop the ecosystem of Jerusalem. I just, you know, recently I've been sitting in the Mass Challenge offices. We were alumni of Mass Challenge Boston 2014, and when I heard that they were opening up in Jerusalem, I got really excited, and I asked them, can I join? Can I sit there? I want a spot to sit in Jerusalem. And they let me join as like an alumni in residence, where I sat and had a chance to really be involved with the program as well as with the companies who are the first round of alumni for Mass Challenge Israel. It was a very exciting move to have an accelerator of that size and dynamic open up in Jerusalem, as opposed to in Tel Aviv, where you would have, you know, where it would have been, you know, the pull to have it sit here. But you know, there's a lot of support for Jerusalem initiative, and I think that you know, part of the Jerusalem Development Authority as well as Made in JLM and JLM Vibe and so many other things that are offering their support and their outreach to the ecosystem of Jerusalem, to the startup ecosystem, is really giving people a sense of you know, there's something different. There is that homey feeling, but there's also that feeling of being able to develop and to reach out and further their cause. Actually, it's a very exciting day for me as well, and I'm not going to talk about it too much, but there's a huge project that's opening up in Jerusalem, and I'm going to be a part of it now as well. I don't want to talk about it now on stage, but if anybody wants to hear more, I'd be glad to talk to you about it afterwards. Jerusalem is developing beyond our wildest imagination. When I was growing up, I couldn't even buy like a skirt in Jerusalem. There was nothing to buy. There was nowhere to go. There was really like, it was like, to think how much it's developed in the past 20 years, 23 years, as he said when he made Aliyah 23 years ago. I have to figure out how many years ago I made Aliyah, but you know, that was a long time ago. And really, I mean, the things have developed so much that I really, really support and encourage people to also participate and become a part of the Jerusalem ecosystem. And if you are going to come, also let me know. I'd be glad to host you or to show you around and so on. One of the amazing things about the social tech world, and I just want to make sure I have this slide here. Okay, so is that you're given an opportunity to do things that you don't usually have an opportunity to do. One of the things I've learned about branding a career in Israel, and I asked people who have worked with me before I made the slide, I said, well, like, what have you learned from me? Because like, I know that Maya asked me to speak after she saw me speak at another event, and I was trying to think, well, what can I offer everybody sitting here that you can't get from anybody else? And so one of the things that some of the feedback I got was that, first of all, when it comes to your career, just remember that your trajectory, you know, normally it's from point A to point B, it's a straight line, and Israel, chances are it's going to be a big, winding circle. or winding path. It's not going to necessarily be that straight line that you had planned. One of the things you have to remember is that there are brands out there that you want to be a part of, but create your own brand. There's a saying that women use called, fake it till you make it. I said don't fake it, but put out for you. Be the person that you want to be. Make sure that people treat you the way you want to be seen, the way you want to treat yourself. Okay? That's about creating your own brand. Making an impact. Make sure that what you're doing, you have skills. They're not always the skills that you think of as being the most valuable, but the skills, we all have all of these different skills that we can use. So be the best you can be. Make an impact. And remember also, when you first make Aliyah, you may have come from like the biggest firm in America and you're looking for a job that's something similar or something parallel. Just remember, as long as you're not working, you're not learning, and you're not creating new connections, you're not building yourself up. Even if a job is temporary, or even if it's not exactly what you want, take it, because if it's fulfilling, of course, important to feel fulfilled. I'm not saying just take the job at the, and do something that's not fulfilling for you. But remember, this doesn't have to be your career goal for the rest of your life. But make sure to go out there and start working and start experiencing and start building up your connections. And one of the things also that's important is that as long as you're working, you're integrating into society. You're becoming a part of Israeli society, Israeli culture, and that's very important too. It doesn't happen from staying at home. It doesn't happen when you're just hanging out with the people you already know. Work-life unbalance. So one of the things that everyone complains about, and it's true, and those are my children. They sent me this picture, I think I was in France, and they wanted me to feel reassured that everything was still orderly and clean at home. And they all looked so happy, so I felt reassured. But the point is that, we know how difficult it is to work and have a family here in Israel. And oftentimes the women are the ones who end up having the misrat the women's job, which is shorter hours and so on. How do you have a family, and how do you also, there's no foreign workers that you can bring in to help you in the house. You have to do it all yourselves. Women's issues are not women's issues. They're social issues, because a family is a social issue. It's not a woman's issue. As long as we want to have families in Israel, we need to take this into account, men and women, and understand how we're going to create a better infrastructure so that families can grow, and both partners in any family, whether it's one partner, whether there's one person in a family or two, can make the most of their careers and grow the best with it they want to grow. Thank you. It's the truth. I know I'm lucky that, I live in a yeshuv where basically I have a lot more support than I would have had in a city, and it's one of the reasons that I stay where I am. Even though I've had to commute to the Merkaz so many times, over this past year, I've put on 60,000 kilometers on my car in 1 year. But the reason I do it is because I want to make sure that I have the support and the infrastructure I need in order to be able to maintain my career and to be able to do what I have to do. And that's what I get from where I am. So I think that, don't ever, there's this idea that there's the lean-in approach, meaning, go and be the best that you can be. And then there's the stay-at-home approach, which is, basically, I couldn't, it was too much, and so on. If you reach the point where you're giving up, then there was something that was out of balance to begin with. Don't reach that point where you're ready to give up. Slowly adjust and adapt throughout your career so that you can always make sure that you don't completely cut yourself out of the workforce. I am now in a lucky stage in my life. My youngest is 8. I'm at a stage now where I'm 39 years old and I have tons of energy. I have many years of experience behind me, and I can do what I want to do, because I haven't just completely cut myself out of the workforce ever. And so, I have that experience, and I can now take it full force. Thank you guys, and really, batzlacha to everybody.